پلیز پوش. با سلام خانم ها و آقایان، من تغی رحمانی هستم.
Ladies and gentlemen, I am Mr. Taghi Rahmani. I am a political activist and a writer, and I am a researcher in contemporary history. I work in the areas of politics and religion. I've spent more than 14 years in the Islamic Republic of Iran. Over the last 3 decades, at the present time, I have been sentenced to 5 years of imprisonment, and I have a number of trials pending before Iranian justice. Right now, the Iranian system is not independent, and I have been sentenced to 16 years of prison. As I said, the Iranian judiciary is not independent. It is controlled by the intelligence services of the country. The judiciary in Iran does not address political cases as it is stipulated in the constitution and according to Iranian law. These laws do not protect detainees, and moreover, Iranian justice does not respect these laws for political prisoners. I am going to denounce here certain behavior that is arbitrary by the Iranian judiciary. First of all, there are nighttime arrests without any justification, and without the person who is being detained being informed of the crime of which he is suspected of having committed. Prisoners are placed in isolation, long periods of isolation, to pressure the prisoners. I personally have been submitted to long periods of isolation, and I have also endured physical torture and psychological torture. And this is meted out to human rights offenders. 3, we are interrogated at night without the presence of a lawyer when we are placed in isolation. Four, there are unfair trials. The courts are under the influence of the intelligence service agents, and investigating judges have shown me each time what my sentence was to be, even before I was heard by the court. Repeatedly, the courts sentenced me to the exact same sentence that the investigating judges had announced even before the hearings began. Hearings are held behind closed doors, under the pretext that the issues relate to the national security of the country. The governmental media exaggerate the charges against the accused. And all hearings are held, as I said, behind closed doors. The accused cannot defend himself when facing the accusations by the media. 6. Political prisoners are imprisoned alongside of drug traffickers and gang members under the pretext that in Iran there are no political prisoners. 7. There is no respect for the rules governing houses of detention, and detainees are deprived of their rights. The prisoners are pushed to collaborate with the prison wards in order to get bonuses and certain rights. 8. Bail is very high and is particularly for the right to be remanded into custody. And sometimes the authorities do not ever release the bail, even after the detention has ended and the prisoner has been released. 9. The detainees are deprived of their civic rights, even after they have been released. And this is done so that they will submit to the will of the regime. It is extremely difficult for political prisoners in Iran. 10. There is a creation of a climate of fear. There's a lack of security and harassment of former prisoners to such an extent that the detainees, after they have been released, do not feel psychologically safe. 11. Prisoners are constantly summoned by the intelligence services, and over the past years, many political activists have been summoned repeatedly. 12. Certain former detainees are prevented from pursuing higher studies. 13. Certain political opponents like Hossein Mousavi, Mehdi Karouba, and Zahra Ranava have all been leaders of their movements, and they are still restricted to their residences and not allowed to leave, and no charges have been brought against them. Amongst these cases that I've just mentioned, the 12 points on the agenda out of 13 were points that I have suffered from, and many others suffer from inhuman treatment. I was prevented from continuing my university studies, and I was not allowed to hold a public job. My wife, Narges Nomadi, was dismissed from her work because of her human rights activities. I was tortured physically many times, but there are many prisoners who have suffered much more than I. Ladies and gentlemen, in Iran, the judiciary does not respect its own laws. They are very far from respecting human rights. The code, the criminal code, Islamic law concerning punishment are far from the principles of human rights. But the Iranian judiciary does not even respect its own laws. And it has maintained severe restrictions that stymie freedom of expression. The third chapter of the Iranian constitution covers the rights of the nation, but the judiciary does not even respect these principles in its own constitution. The law on political offenses does not ensure sufficient protection for the people who have been accused of political offenses and is not in line with international law. This law has, moreover, not even been put into practice by the Iranian judiciary. We must have a dialogue with the government in Iran and ask them, demand that they respect their own laws. And then we must try to have them change their laws on the basis of human rights. Under Chapter 3 of the Iranian Constitution, this is discussed. Thank you.